Hello, everybody, and welcome back to CrackCrusader Reviews. I'm your host, CrackCrusader, and today I am reviewing Choo Choo Charles. Now, Choo Choo Charles is a game I played back when it released in 2022, or December 2022, so it's been a few weeks now. But to be fair, I wasn't really planning on continuing the series, CrackCrusader Reviews, so we're back now, and I'm bringing it back. Um, First thing I want to talk about is how I follow this game's development through over the months, like back when it was first like really hyped up on TikTok. That's when I first heard about it, and then I was following it ever since on Twitter. Anyway, this game is pretty good. It has quite a bit of good things about it. Like its characters are interesting to say the least. The train does look really cool. Like the when you drive, looks really cool when you upgrade it, and seeing it get upgraded is pretty cool. But there's also things I didn't like about the game that I'll be getting into shortly. Now, I do want to say that no hate to two-star games. This is or not the first game they've ever made, but the longest and biggest game they've ever made. So no hate to them at all. I'm not trying to shit talk the game or anything. Still a really good game, and I really hope that he makes more games, like two-star games. I hope that there's more games made by them. Anyway, I'm going to get into what I disliked about the game, and then I'll get into what I liked about the game, and I'll tell you if you should pick the game up or not. Now, first thing I want to talk about is how it's only a PC release right now, and it's an indie developer, so it's probably not like two-star games is pretty small, so I don't ever expect it to go to console. So that is kind of a con of the game, but not a huge deal, as when you're an indie developer, you are limited to what you can do because you don't have all the funds as like a Bethesda or like a AAA studio does. Now, getting into the other problems that I really want to talk about, like gameplay and everything. First thing I want to talk about is the map is huge, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but here in Choo Choo Charles, you don't have a lot of you don't have a lot of opportunity to explore the whole map because you're stuck on your train for the most of it. Now you can get off your train and explore the map if you really wanted to, but the problem is that Charles, like the evil train that's after you, the evil spider train that's after you, will attack you when you're off your train. And if you're not close to your train, you are completely defenseless and you will die. You are not protected if you are off your train. You are completely vulnerable. You're like a turtle without its shell. So, like I said, the map is huge, but you can't really explore it. The other problem is that it is so big and it is pretty empty. Like, there aren't just a bunch of like random cabins around or anything. It's just like the few NPCs have their homes or whatever, then it's just trees and forest. So you will, for the most part, just be on your train and on the tracks because there's no real need to get off your train and go looking for anything. The next problem I have with the game is goes back to kind of like the being defenseless without your train. Um, when you're doing stuff with around the cultists, which there are in the game, when you're trying to find this is might be a little bit of a spoiler. Charles has spider eggs around the map that you need to collect, and that will start the end, like the end of the game when you collect them all. The problem is that when you're trying to find the eggs, you are going into these cultist camps. You're very, very defenseless if you're off your train, which you have to get off your train because these are mine shafts and your train won't fit. So you leave yourself very defenseless going in, and the sneaking mechanics in the game are very, not janky, but it's very hard to actually sneak in the game because of the AI and how it works. Is basically you have to watch the guard's AI because they have a set path that they walk every time and it never deviates. So you can sit there for a long time, but the problem is if they see you from basically anywhere, they are after you, and then there is a cutoff point eventually, but they will chase you for a long time, and they can see you from very far away. So it's very hard to sneak up. Crouching is needed, but the problem with crouching is you start to walk slower, and the guards walk pretty fast, so they can walk by and see you pretty quickly. So I just think that the whole sneaking mechanic, because they did leave Choo Choo Charles on a cliffhanger and a kind of idea that there would be another game. So in Choo Choo Charles 2, if it ever gets made, I would expect that there would be a revamped sneaking mechanic and also maybe some way of defending yourself, whether that's like a assassin, like a sneak up attack where you sneak behind an enemy and kill them, or a weapon of some sort that you can defend yourself with. And that's about all the negative things I have, which those are both tuned to be very like big things, because in the game you do a lot of sneaking. Like there aren't just like the eggs you need to collect. That's not the only part of the sneaking portion. You have to go into camps, like if you want new weapons and everything. You will have to go into these cultist camps, and they again find you very easily. When I was going into a cultist camp, if my train was close by, I would just lead the cultists to the train. I would just kill them at the train, because you can kill them if you're at your train. But half the problem is all the cultist camps were like quite a bit away from your train, so you had to grab all their attention, and then you had to bring them to the train. Which, if you get too far ahead of them, they will just leave you alone, so you can't kill them. But yeah, that's a pretty big problem in my eyes, is that the sneaking mechanics don't work that great, and there's no way to defend yourself or anything. And also the map is very open and kind of just dead. And it is an indie developer, and the map is huge, so applause to making a very big map. But next time I think that the map maybe should have a little bit more. And including if you could defend yourself from Charles, like having like a flash grenade or something on your to use when you're off your train to like disorient Charles, some way to hide somewhere, like if you were out of a, like if you could almost like cover yourself or lay down or like find somewhere to hide. Like for instance, if I was exploring the map and Charles was after me, and if I had some sort of way of stunning him for like maybe 5 seconds, and I could find like let's say there's like a pile of leaves or something, because this is just a giant forest basically. If I could just hide in the giant pile of leaves or anything until he leaves, and then I could continue exploring the island. And maybe if there's a little bit more of like collectibles on the island, for instance, like not just collectibles though, like actual like things that are useful, like maybe a blueprint, a weapon I can craft for the train or for myself or something. That'd be a big step in the right direction to improve this game in the future. Now, the good parts of the game. The train looks absolutely like the one you have. That your train looks super cool. It's awesome. Like when you upgrade its defenses all the way to the max, your train will look sick. It is very rewarding getting the scrap to upgrade your train. Like every time I was upgrading my train, I felt super cool and like loved it. Including watching your train kind of go from this rust bucket to like an spider train killer, like a demon train basically. It's pretty cool. The NPCs are all pretty alive and all pretty lively. Now, I forgot to mention this when I was talking about the things I dislike, but a problem with the NPCs is that when there's moving with the NPCs, it's very how do I say it? Very linear, I guess, because NPCs will walk, and then if they turn, they are like very sharp. There's no like twist or anything natural about it. They like shift very like robotic-ish and then just continue moving. Very robotic. That's the word I'm looking for. Very robotic. And it's the same with the cultists, but it's especially bad with NPCs that you're talking with and that you do missions for, because if they move, when they stop, they just stop looking at, like, let's say there's someone directly in front of me and they're walking this way, right? And then they stop, they just snap instant 180 to where I am, which is a very robotic and B, looks a little unpolished. But again, no hate to 2-star games making, like, I'm not a game developer, I have no clue how hard it is, but I assume it's pretty hard to do all that. So again, applause to him for making the game. But the NPCs are all very lively. They'll have their own attitudes. They're all interesting. I think some characters I disliked because they were just a little too over the top for me. But I think that is how the game was, how 2-star intended the game to be, was a few the NPCs to be very interesting and just kind of fun. The NPCs are fun, but they are just very over the top. When you're using the train, like the train mechanics are really cool. Like the stop, go, and the reverse are all cool. That they're all different levers and everything in the train, and they work very easy to drive your train. That's what another thing is. It's very easy to just hop in the game and play. You learn the game very quickly. That's pretty cool. There are 4 weapons in the game that you can collect, and there's only really 2, I guess, that are like super needed. Like I'm not gonna tell you what I thought were super useful, but I found that some of the weapons were pretty underwhelming, including the one that most people probably get last. I found that gun was very underwhelming because of how quickly it got overheated and just how slow it fired. Like it had a high damage, but I don't think it was really worth using the gun. Oh yeah, the story was actually not too bad. I mean, the fact that the big bad villain had his motives, which were again maybe not the strongest, but at least he had them. Where some villains can be underdeveloped. There's a low in the game and there's stuff, so he's not super underdeveloped. But he is kind of just don't really talk to him till the end of the game, and then you don't ever talk to him again. That kind of weird, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Anyway, the game, if you ask me, I would say it's probably worth picking up if you have like I think it's $20. If you have the $20, it's okay game. I completed it in 2 hours, so that's okay. But there's a lot of there are a few collectibles like paint and everything, and the lore bits, so you can get the idea of what happened with the game or what's happening in the world around you. But for the most part, I think it's got some unpolished in it, and with the second game that I hope 2-Star Games makes, some of the problems I had are wrinkled out, or maybe they add some stuff that makes the game just work a little bit better. But overall, I'd say it's probably worth picking up. It's about a 70%, 65. Again, it's a game. It's his 2-Star Games' first really big game, so again, props to him. He did a really good job on it. But going into the future, there are definitely things you can work on to improve the game itself. But it is not a bad game, and by all means, it's not like a cash grab. It's not going to download a crypto miner to your PC. So overall, I'd say you should get it if you got the money. Support him so he can continue making games and hopefully improve. And maybe the next game he makes will be really good. Like maybe a 90-80%. But that's all for today. I'm CrackCrusader, and talk to you in the next one.